take us live, and we'll call the meeting to order and just have some brief discussions on a couple things.
There you go.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. I will go ahead and call to order this special session of the Auburn City Council for June 12th, 2020. If you will all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and ask the clerk to take the roll, please, since this is a city council meeting.
Councilmember Dowden Calvia.
Present.
Councilmember Amara is here. Councilmember Mackey.
Here.
And Mayor Berlant.
I am here. Great. Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. I'll go ahead and start with public comment. This is an opportunity for anybody who would like to comment on an item that is on this agenda. We are, of course, taking comments via email and phone calls, which was noted on the agenda. Amy, were there any public comments made before the meeting?
There is not for this meeting.
Okay, great. Well, then let's just jump right into our economic recovery workshop. Again, I think today will be a relatively shorter meeting. We'll start with health and emergency response update. Just a couple things. Bob Richardson, our city manager, and myself got off a call just a little while ago with some of the other county leaders. A couple updates to give you. Positive cases are on the rise. In fact, they're up 30% in the past 7 days. 344 cases now. The good news is this week, the number of hospitalizations, though, is down. There are 7 people in the hospital, out of which 1 is in the ICU. If you remember last week, I think we either had 10 or 11 by Friday in the hospital with 3 to 4 in the ICU. So cases are going up. It had been asked, and Cheryl, I don't know if it was you who asked, but somebody had asked last week about, you know, is the increase just a result of more testing, since more testing is being done? And I didn't really understand why the health officer was so convicted on that it's not due to just more increased testing, but it's actually spread of virus. And she explained a little bit further today, just statistically speaking, as they do more testing, the rise in positive cases does not follow the overall rise in additional testing. So it's more of a statistical calculation. So she again reiterated that she didn't believe the positive cases are from additional testing. It's really the virus spreading within our community. And so continued the same discussion and really asked all of us, business leaders particular, but also community leaders and residents, to really continue to heed the warnings, whether it's washing your hands, disinfecting, cleaning in between, social distancing, wearing a face covering when you cannot, and taking all these other precautions so that we can slow down the spread of the virus. Now, even with the 30% increase in the past 7 days, that still has not put Placer County meeting its triggers of having to go backwards in reclose openings. So we are trending in the wrong direction, she pointed out, but again, at this point, we just need to continue to understand and balance this reopenings that we're doing in a safe manner with the understanding that the virus is still among us and it is still spreading at a higher percentage than it had the last couple of months. Go ahead, Councilwoman Mackey.
Yes, Mayor Berlant, since the health officer said that it's not due to increased testing, then are we to assume that it is symptomatic and actual people that are very sick with it, not just asymptomatic people that have been tested positive?
I would have to make that assumption. One of the things that she discussed with us was that most of what we're seeing is in clusters. So whether it's whole households, groups of people that attended a similar gathering, and so it is people who have or are connected to somebody who has symptoms that get tested, and then they test those around them, and that's what's leading to some of the increases.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing too that I will continue to announce, this is kind of like the same discussion last week. The health officer is anticipating additional guidance released today on personal services. What all that entails, I can only speculate, but just because as we even talked, I think last week, Councilwoman Dowden Calvillo, you heard the governor say one thing and then it wasn't as part of it. So just prepare to look for some additional guidance coming out today. If last week was any indication, that came out just before about 3 o'clock this on Friday. And with those additional personal service guidance, that will likely also, just like this past week, go into effect within 7 days. So whatever guidance gets released today will go into effect on Friday of next week. And so there was some confusion last week as well. Some people didn't know if the county had to take any action, if the Board of Supervisors had to do anything, but the answer is no. Once the guidance comes out in counties that are already on a plan like we are, these type of businesses will be able to open up. So look for some additional businesses being opened up this Friday. We can discuss here just a little bit about equipment for those types of businesses as Bob will report a little bit on personal protective equipment on the city. But that's a quick update on some of the health items, and happy to take some additional questions. And Councilwoman Mackey, go ahead.
How do we find out which personal services? Because I know they list these few here, but I've had a couple of questions from estheticians who don't know where they lie in the personal services category. Would that be on the state site? And
Yes.
it is
Yeah,
on the state site?
I think that once the, again, a couple assumptions, because one, it's not out yet, but I think what you will see is this personal services will have some descriptions. And again, we can make some assumptions, nail salons as an example, but there are a number of other kind of one-offs or even spin-offs that kind of connect to that. And so we'll hope to see those being listed. Now, she did talk about the fact that there are what she called them unicorns. These are specific businesses that maybe don't fall as cleanly in some of these service sectors. And so if those come up, she's happy to have us, push to her, and she can continue to push on the state. One thing that we being all the city leaders that are on this call have for months now been pushing on her, and the message is clear because she is now making it clear to us at the beginning that she has sent several letters to the state asking for additional guidance, specifically in areas related to public gatherings. And I think I mentioned this last week, but trying to ensure that the same type of guidance that's given for church and protest should be able to be used for small gatherings. She also used the example of gyms. Gyms are allowed to have small fitness sessions with multiple people. And so if you can, at the gym where you're exerting and breathing heavy and in close proximity, again, why can we not have public gatherings in our backyards with people who are out with our family? And so the county did send a letter this week, again, pushing for that. They again are still pushing for youth sports because they also don't believe that youth sports is really following suit with what is, what the current guidance that's out there, that this should be one of those similar types of services. So again, a number of other items that still aren't being allowed. Your example, I'm going to assume, and we'll find out, will be in the personal services. But again, if there's some unicorn businesses that we have, let's circle those up and get those back to the county and see what guidance we can get.
Daniel?
Go ahead.
Yes, I just had, I don't know if the rest of the council received a call, but a constituent was calling with regards to the fact that family members can't visit those other family members in the hospital at Sutter Auburn Faith. Has the health officer said anything about that? Whether or not they're going to be relaxed on or at some point with regards to visitation, and in this case, the constituent's father has been hospitalized for 4 weeks, I believe, not with COVID, with something else. But they're expressing frustration, as I know many, many others are, that they're not able to see their loved ones. So I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion by the health officer on that point at all.
No discussion that I'm aware of. Bob, did you hear anything separate on that? But no, none that I'd heard.
So in any of our meetings, there's not been discussion, but I believe also that hospital administration has a certain amount of control over that. And they are very, very sensitive to having any kind of infection spread through their hospitals.
Yeah.
I will tell you, and maybe
Bob,
it is a
that's what I heard
hospital.
too.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just concurring with Bob. My daughter's a nurse, and they're still being very, very vigilant at Sutter Roseville anyway.
And I was just going to add that it may be hospital. My mom went into a surgery at UC Davis, and they allowed for one family member. So there may be, there may be some hospital oversight in some of that decision making. But Alice, I will capture that and see if I can help ping her, see if they can get any guidance or any information of what Sutter Auburn's plan is, at least.
Yeah.
I'd hate to have somebody and family member that long in the hospital and you not have any opportunity.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
some of it's a balance. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, great. Next item here is city actions and services. So I will turn it over to our city manager, Bob Richardson.
Well, we've certainly had a lot fewer requests for assistance over the last couple of weeks now. I think the businesses are getting open. They're understanding what they can and can't do. They're getting back into the rhythm of just being in business and are not really looking toward us at all. We've gone out just to check in, say hi. We get smiles, waves. They're all good. I think any additional proactive approach right now would just be getting in their ways because they're really focusing on getting back to business. That's all good. That's a great story right there. We are getting still complaints. They've kind of shifted more toward a lot of complaints about lack of people wearing masks in the community. A lot of these are coming from more physically fragile people that would like to get out, but are concerned just that people are walking around outside without masks and that could affect them. We're calling everybody back, explaining to them what the law is, what can and can't be done. And so at least we're trying to get them up to speed. It is a more difficult situation if in fact you have more susceptibility to disease right now. We've only had a couple of complaints about businesses that shouldn't be opened. One of the three we had, two were just quick conversations. One was unfounded, and I think all is good there. Once we got barber shops and beauty shops officially opened again, we really lost complaints. The complaints really dropped off. We have a few on nail salons. We anticipate that they will be opened next Friday and moving forward there as well. Our outdoor dining, our open seating, our outdoor music, all is going great. Thanks to April Maynard and Lisa Ford, they're taking the leads now on those programs. All looks good. There's been questions about care funds for the cities. Right now, the governor's budget, he put in $450 million for all the cities out of his roughly $15 billion that the state received. The League of California Cities is still lobbying for an additional $50 million for that and a new methodology to spread the funds out a little more evenly for the smaller cities in the state. Auburn has set itself up to become completely reimbursed through the Cal OES FEMA system. That's the normal way that we get reimbursed for emergencies. We're all up to speed on our paperwork, record keeping, all that. It will be a little while before we start submitting. But at the same time, we're starting to look at the CARES Act funds and what are the real requirements for use of those? Because a lot of it is COVID-related expenses. We're trying to see, can we, if we're going to get fully reimbursed through Cal OES and FEMA, can we then look at positioning those funds possibly to assist businesses in one way or another, or to provide grant funds or loan programs to those that need it. So we're doing that research right now, trying to see, does the state have requirements really nailed down for how we can and can't use those funds. They've had the cities that did receive CARE Act funds right off the bat were cities in excess of 500,000 population. They had a very specific set of requirements that they could use those funds for. We're going to see, since this is coming to the state, does that change or not? I think with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Anybody have, yeah, go ahead, Councilwoman Downing Calvillo.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, do we have any guesstimate as to how much in care funds we are going to get of that 450 million that the governor is trying to allocate to cities and counties? Is there a formula that tells us what we can expect?
We were guesstimating between 150 and 200,
Okay,
but even the governor's formula isn't the most precise the way it's been thrown out. And so we're looking for better precision and for a new formula at the moment.
but right now you're thinking about between 150 and 200?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's our best guess number at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the city manager? Bob, I had one question. Any idea the CARES funding that's available, is it simply for reimbursement for response, or is there any ability to use any of that money for specifically projects or services that may financially have had to be cut due to lack of revenue as a result of COVID?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that. Which funds are you referring to?
The CARES funds, is it only for reimbursement, or is there ability to use it to backfill behind loss of revenue?
That's precisely some of the questions we're looking to get answered right now. And as soon as I have answers, we will let you know. But I think we're looking for a better depth of reimbursement for the cities that goes outside of the Cal OES FEMA funding and reimbursement profile, and then into what can we use for deeper funding for the city as well as for the community.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, then let's move to our business personal protective equipment needs. And Bob, I'll let you give us an update on the PPE shipment that's headed our way.
Is it? The shipment, the shipment, it sounds like it's had a bit of a rocky start. I guess they tried to come by yesterday and could not get in, did not try to contact us. So the chamber was notified last night. We have, several of us have contacted Cal OES early this morning with all my contact information. We may get it later today. We may get it sometime this weekend. They have my personal information. We'll make sure that the doors are open when they're here.
And just to tag on to that, sounds like the city of Lincoln is the first city in our area to get their supply, and it came in at a higher amount than they had requested. We'll see how many pallets they drop off, which again, that's a good thing, but that will be an extra part of the challenge. Again, Allison's not here. She's been, Harvey from the Chamber of Commerce has been leading the organization as far as distribution of it. Bob, is there anything you have as far as how it's going to be distributed, or is the Chamber of Commerce completely leading that effort?
She is still in the process of developing a list of businesses that would like the materials. As soon as she has a list she thinks is worthy to really get going on, we have a number of people that have volunteered to assist in the distribution, and she will provide us that, and we'll start scheduling. But at this point in time, we had not seen the list that she has yet, and she's probably just holding that back until we do have material up here on premises.
And just to remind everybody, the order was for 35,000 masks and 700 gallons of hand sanitizers. a pretty large amount. So any questions for the city manager related to this equipment? Okay, great. Next item here is stage 3 reopening status. Really, the additional item that I already mentioned was we're waiting to get additional guidance today on personal services. The county's economic director will be working to, of course, post more details. Once that happens, they too are just continuing to click refresh on the state's website to find out when it's officially announced. And maybe I should look as we're speaking here too, but that should come at any time today. And again, personal services could include, but has not yet been clarified. It could include nail salons, massages, tattoo parlors. Those are some examples, but again, nothing specific until they release that specific industry guidance. Anybody else have any other things to report or discuss on stage 3? Yeah, Rob, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, just a couple things. As you guys know, leisure and travel is open as of today. So one of the questions we've been fielding is people are curious about what the directives are as far as hotels, motels, especially, in the Tahoe area. And it's important to note that the county, Placer County, has not added any additional directive to what the state has put forward. So really, we are being completely guided by the state's direction in this particular phase. And one of the questions that has come up several times, and some other entities have asked about it, is, is there a requirement, for example, of hotels to have a 24-hour to 72-hour moratorium between uses of hotel rooms, that sort of thing. And while the state is highly recommending it, they are not requiring it. So it's going to be important for visitors to, if they're concerned about that, to go directly to the various hotels to look at their plans, to see what they're implementing. So for example, Morelatos Resort in Kings Beach has a very detailed plan up. They are doing a 24-hour moratorium. So it's going to be a default back to the state, but each individual organization is going to put some of their guidelines together based on their own business plans. So I think that's important to know, given that this is a key day. State parks are also open. A lot more of them are open today, including Sugar Pine Point and Donner Lake. One interesting thing about that, because I looked into it myself, is June's pretty open because they canceled everybody's June reservations, but July, they did not cancel. So July is completely jammed up in those places. Now, whether those folks are still going to come or not, I don't know. But so there's a lot of movement in that sector. Obviously, wineries are now able to operate without food. So just today's a big day for all that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And as we move forward, and hopefully, like you said, there'll be some additional guidance. I don't know if some of you saw the story that the Lincoln Potters were supposedly coming online to start their baseball season.
Yeah.
And so that prompted a lot of people, including myself, to wonder if, does that mean that amateur sports are now are able to move into this phase? Turns out Lincoln's in this weird position. They're not really a professional sport, but they're kind of technically are. So there's been, I think because they charge for admission. So even though they were moving forward without fans, they seem to think they fell in this. I don't know if that has held, to be honest. The county seemed to, Dr. Sisson seemed pretty clear that amateur sports are not part of, that directive from last week. But we are hearing that there's a lot of work being done on that. So.
Thank you, Rob. And actually, that brought up a good point that I should have mentioned. Again, starting today, there's a number of reopenings, and that includes day camps, hotels, campgrounds, as Rob just mentioned, gyms and fitness centers, including pools, family entertainment centers, which is miniature golf, bowling, zoos and museums, bars and wineries, as mentioned again by Rob, without having to serve food, and casinos. A couple other smaller ones, but those are kind of the main items for stage 3. And I also want to just mention, I have been in pretty constant contact, as probably several of you have as well, but with our county supervisor, as they've continued to send letters and pushed on state leaders. And I have continued to, stay pretty consistent, not to use that word twice, but to really continue urging the state to provide consistent guidance when it comes to some of these reopenings. Again, I gave some examples at the top, but youth sports is in a category that is not as high risk, yet casinos and other places are. And so, having a little bit more balanced, consistent guidance specifically related to gatherings, that's kind of where I'm getting the most calls about. But I just wanted to report back to you guys that I have been working very closely with our county supervisor, who has been continuing to raise those concerns, and that's been included into the letters from the county to the state. And whether we take credit or not, the state does sometimes listen, or at least does whatever we ask in the county asks in those letters. So that's it. Councilwoman Downing Calvillo, go ahead.
Yes, it just reminded me that schools are moving forward with their plans as well. And what I'm hearing is that there is a strong push for schools in Placer County to open as business as usual. So it'll be interesting to see as those opening up plans come out, what they're going to be doing. I know that the superintendent would like everyone to be on the same page, but understands that the districts have their own individual, each district is going to have to assess the risks and make that call for themselves, but that there is a push to pretty much open schools as usual. There was some discussion about a hybrid model for some schools, but it seems like right now, today, in this moment, they're looking at more of a open as usual. That could change next week. But I just wanted to let people know, because obviously we have parents, employees have kids, and I know that people are very interested in that. So I don't speak on behalf of schools. I'm just hearing that's coming down the pipeline, but of course, we'll have to wait for official guidance on that.
Also, with your connections to what is happening with the schools, one of the things the health officer mentioned, and even at the Board of Supervisors last week, was the fact that the state actually came out with 2 guidance documents.
Yes.
From the public health and one from the Board of Education or the Department of Education. Any idea of, is that creating an issue for schools, or are they just kind of maneuvering through it, like you just said, as a school by school or district by district case?
Yes, both guidances, and the guidance they don't contradict themselves, obviously, but it's really going to be on a district by district basis. With the school district I'm involved in, we're going to have an informational item on Monday night's agenda whereby we discuss the various options and the risks that are involved. So it's really going to be, I think, on a district by district basis, based on what families are needing and also what teachers are calling for, because that's the other piece of this, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Auburn, and we'll see what happens throughout the county.
I think,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, I just came back in. I think specifically I heard Placer High School is going to open, obviously, but do a hybrid version. That was the last I heard.
Yeah, they were talking about that, but as of this moment, it sounds like that may not be the case. The districts haven't officially made those decisions, but we're just seeing movement. It's just been a little bit of a change. All of a sudden, I'm hearing that there may be some, open as usual kind of approach. But I think the decisions are going to be made in the next couple of weeks with regards to that. But I was a little surprised to hear that, but that's what I'm hearing right now, as of yesterday. Again, could change on Monday.
And would I would assume that it would all be at district level, not at high school specific, correct?
It would be a district. Yeah,
so-
it's going to be the board of directors for each school district is going to have to assess the risks and then make the decisions on the, instruction.
So
But the high
Colfax
school
will-
and elementary school are two different districts.
Yes,
correct.
they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
But for example, Colfax and Placer would not have different directives is my.
No, they're all the same district.
Right.
Colfax,
Yeah.
Placer, Forest Hill, and Del Oro.
Correct.
Yeah, so they'll, again, those boards of directors will make their, final determination, but just what we're hearing is that it looks like there's a really strong push that they open as usual, so we'll just have to see. I don't think that every school district will, but, and again, countywide, I mean, obviously, we're talking, this is for us, Auburn, but I think you'll see some differences in the different districts. So.
And is it true? I heard today that several Placer County districts were meeting today, actually discuss a more unified approach to it potentially, especially as it re-
I don't know if the districts are, if the board of directors are meeting today. I know that the superintendent has ongoing conversations with the other superintendents. The Placer, Gail is in constant contact with the other superintendents, and those discussions happen on a very regular basis. But
Right.
I'm not aware of any board of directors meeting today.
Okay.
But I'm not plugged into that piece. I just know that we will be meeting on Monday, my board of directors.
Any other questions or discussion on stage 3 reopenings? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move to our reports. Obviously, we do not have a report from the Auburn Chamber of Commerce today, but for our business associations, I'll turn it to Monique Hall for the Highway 49 Business Association. Hi, Monique, how are we doing?
Good, Daniel. Thank you. There is actually no other update that we have at this point. We did meet as a board and made some decisions on just being there as a support for our businesses, providing them tools and things that they need, and then essentially just be there as a partner with them. But we, as a board, will not meet again until August, unless something comes up.
Okay, thank you, Monique. Appreciate that. Rob, I know you hitting on Placer Tourism, talked about leisure travel opening today. Anything else from Visit Placer?
Yeah, we had some kids up on our building, turn our power off.
What?
So, yeah, that was kind of a thing. And it turns out a predecessor of mine here had some cameras put in, and apparently they cloaked the cameras and flipped the switch. So, yeah, so
Wow.
just kids, but I guess apparently they mess around up on the building up here. So, but we've been open for a couple of weeks now, and super excited to have us back open. We've had visitors come in. It's going really well on that front. So, yeah, just hoping beyond hope that, the opening, as we keep going, things stay smooth, hospitals are good, and we can really kind of, see this thing through like I'm sure everybody here wants to see, so.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Rob related to tourism, Visit Placer? Or even the juvenile delinquents that the police department are working to help you with, but thank you, Rob, for that update. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Anything else, round table, go to the order for the group? Any items? Again, I know a little shorter agenda today, but that's fine as we just continue to have an opportunity to discuss and provide updates of what's going on.
I'm sure we all got the voicemail from the lady whose father's been in the hospital for 4 weeks. Have you heard that voicemail yet?
That's what I was talking about,
That's what
Cheryl,
you're-
about
yeah.
the constituent that wanted to visit her father. Yeah.
Who do we send her to?
I think we were talking about that each hospital might have a little bit of flexibility themselves. So probably send her to, I don't know if we send her to Mitch, Hannah. It
Who's not
sounded like,
always here.
yeah, I just sounded like Daniel had mentioned that, there was, his mother had surgery and she was able to take one person with her. So I was
Yeah,
hoping
that's
that,
what leads it to me that maybe it's a hospital, a little bit of a
Yeah,
hospital decision. So, hey,
yeah.
on some of the other meetings that you're on each week, or maybe this is a question too for the public safety chiefs, but is there a representative from the hospital that we could ping this question to and help provide a connection?
You know, let me go ahead and track it down. Which hospital is this
Auburn
individual
Center
at?
Faith. It's
Center
Auburn
Faith.
Center.
Oh, yeah, I'll track it down. I'll get back in touch with the mayor with an answer.
Great,
Good,
thanks.
great,
And then we can share that news. And I didn't get the message, so my messages have been focused on public gatherings and nail salons. And I have had conversations with some very women that very much need to get their nails done. So hopefully we'll have some good news
They're here.
later this week. But if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting and get back together next Friday to see where we are in the state of COVID items. So with that, thank you guys very much, and I'll go ahead and close this meeting.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good day.
Thanks.
Thank
Daniel.
you.